Hello, hello. How are we going? Everyone well? Welcome to my masterclass. I'm now officially the muscle mama. So a lot of the things that I'm doing. Hello, Sharon. I'm just going to open up my PowerPoint straight away so we can start talking. Is that right? Hello. How are we going? People are coming on. So I'm just going to share this little one here. How is everyone today? Congratulations for rocking up live. I definitely know that you're ahead of the rest when you come into a live talk like this. It really does help. I do only have 40 minutes to really run through everything, so I know there'll be a few more people coming on now. So I've got 5 on, and I'm just going to introduce myself. So most of you guys know me as Sally Mattison. Now, I am Sally Gatnow. I got married recently, which has been an awesome journey, and I'm now pregnant. So some of you who are watching online might be able to see, me with my belly bump here. Not everyone will see the video of me talking, but you can hopefully see now the PowerPoint's up. So welcome along if you're joining us live. We've got a couple more come on. So officially I've rebranded, and one of the things that I love about evolving as an online brand is that I really am passionate about linking in hormones to every aspect of fat loss. And I studied biosignature, so some of you may or may not know what biosignature is. I went overseas. I did a lot of study about 8 years ago, and it's basically linking in hormone imbalances to stubborn areas of body fat. So a lot of people find when they go into a fat loss program or a transformation program, often they might go in gung-ho, a few things can happen. They might not get the results they want, they might get burnt out. As a result, they might even damage their hormone balance and their endocrine system. So they're actually worse off than what they were to begin with, which is never a good thing. So I started implementing a lot of these things about 8 years ago. I competed overseas, so I knew that this was a great formula that I now introduce to everyday people. So obviously when competing, you're doing it at the highest level, but I always take the foundations of hormone balance and try to translate that into the everyday person. So the things you're going to learn today are really going to translate into your everyday life. Welcome along if you're still coming in. So what is biosignature? So the correlation between body fat distribution and hormone imbalances. Hormone imbalances can be responsible for a lot of things, not just stubborn areas of body fat, but poor sleep, low energy, impaired cognitive, I always struggle with that word, or brain function, and more. So there's a lot of linking now to hormone imbalance and even things like cancer and a lot of disease. So type 2 diabetes, we've got other insulin resistance conditions like polycystic ovary, we've got a lot of adrenal issues now, Hashimoto's, things that are really burning us out, and a lot of people just can't make sense of these things. But when you link it back to the hormones and you link it back to how we eat, how we train, how we live, all of these things can be addressed quite holistically, and we'll go through those things as we progress through today's masterclass. So yeah, definitely welcome along. I hope you've got your notes that you printed out from the emails and you're jotting down some stuff. But basically what we do as biosignature practitioners is we focus on the holistic parts of your wellness, I guess, and looking at things like nutrition, as I said, training, supplementation, and lifestyle. So next, these are the topics we're going to cover today. So like I said before, I'm really trying to link in every aspect of our lives and how we link that into hormone balance. So the first thing we're going to cover is Eat for Hormone Balance. And it's all about looking at the hormones that govern metabolism. So the first thing we're going to look at is insulin sensitivity and fat loss. We're looking at our mood hormones, and then we're going to look at our hunger hormones and how our diet influences them. So nutrition is a massive part of getting the hormone balance right. Eat for hormone balance, we've got our insulin. So what is insulin? Well, basically when you eat a carbohydrate, its role in the body is to take glucose in the form of glycogen to your muscles for energy. Now the problem is often what we find is that our body's producing too much insulin from too much of the wrong foods, and rather than take that insulin to the muscles for energy, it's storing as excess body fat. And where they've linked that in biosignature, or the study of hormones, is around that love handle or muffin top area. We all love the muffin tops, and the back fat. So often since I've been pregnant, I've found that because obviously my body is storing more glycogen and to feed the baby, I have found those two folds have up. Naturally, my diet has changed a lot. So I do know when you implement this stuff and you realise that these hormones correlate to specific areas in your body, it can make a lot of sense about why you're storing fat in those areas. One of the things we can do straight away to control insulin in the body is to choose low insulin response carbohydrates. So low insulin response carbohydrates are things that don't, or carbohydrates that don't secrete as much insulin. So that's the first thing we can do. When we find that we're choosing low insulin response carbs, your body's going to produce less insulin, and as a result, your chances are you're not going to store as much of the body fat that you have been if you have been a little bit heavy or having too many high insulin response carbs. So to give you an example of a low insulin response carbs, sweet potato would be a lower insulin response starchy carb. Things like white rice would be a higher insulin response carbohydrate. So you want to have things like white rice less, and things like your sweet potato more often if you still want to keep starchy carbs in your diet. Increase insulin sensitivity. So basically one of the reasons again we store fat because of this hormone is because we have insulin resistance. So again, rather than our body storing or using insulin the way it should be, it's storing as body fat, or your body's not metabolizing or breaking down carbs for energy. So we can actually reverse insulin resistance conditions by choosing the right foods. And we've got things like good fats that we can put into our diet that increases our insulin sensitivity by increasing the amount of insulin receptors we have. A lot of the diets out at the moment, you've got keto and Mediterranean. I'm not a massive fan of restricting what we can have. I like to have a really good variety of food, but certainly when you look at the science behind increasing fats, the fats you like, your nuts and your seeds and all those sorts of things, it makes a lot of sense that it's actually helping with our body fat composition and reducing stubborn areas of body fat, particularly around the love handle and back fat area. We love those stubborn areas, so anything that helps is great. So choosing the right foods to keep us more insulin sensitive. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is our mood hormones. So eating certain things at certain times of the day can actually help balance our dopamine and serotonin. So dopamine is really responsible for motivation and drive. It's that thing that gets us up in the morning. It's the thing that, gives us our strive. It gives us our, great sessions in the gym. And then we've got our serotonin. So serotonin is that contentment feeling. It's that feeling when you have a massage and you're just like, oh, the world's just a great place. So what we want to do is have balanced amounts of those two hormones. Often what we're finding in today's society, because of our lifestyles, we do tend to increase the amount of dopamine. We're living in a fast-paced environment. We're not secreting enough serotonin, so we're not getting that balance right. So again, this can correlate to, again, the hormone imbalances like cortisol, which can again store excess body fat, but also it's not great for your quality of life. So we want to be, switched on during the day. And I know in my first trimester, oh my gosh, I just didn't have the drive, and it's great when you get it back. And I know that it's because your hormones are going all over the show, but to have these two hormones in balance, we should be feeling more relaxed at night. We should be feeling more content. and then we should be feeling more motivated and driven to do the things we've got to do, focus, at our work if we've got a corporate job and we're at a desk all day. So knowing what foods to eat. Tyrosine, which is an amino acid, foods like beef, lamb, seeds, eggs, and beans help to activate or produce dopamine. So we often find that during the day, dopamine is fantastic. It's a hormone that's going to help us. And then serotonin foods in the PM. So if you're somebody that suffers from a bit of anxiety, are you more than likely not producing much serotonin? So tryptophan is an amino acid that will help activate your serotonin levels, which is in foods like dark chocolate, hooray. Dried dates, and turkey is a good one. They often make a joke about turkey and having a big sleep after your turkey dinner or your Thanksgiving dinner. So often they've found that correlation between the L-tryptophan or the amino acid and or increasing your serotonin, which will obviously reduce your anxiety and help you relax at night. So they're just some little tips for what to have. Another thing that is really coming out now in the masses is leptin and ghrelin, and some of you might have heard these two hormones. So basically leptin is the hormone that makes us feel satisfied, so it tells us when we're full. Ghrelin tells us when we're hungry. So again, if these two hormones are out of whack, we have either uncontrollable hunger, we don't have a switch off, so we kind of keep eating and don't realise that our body's actually had enough to eat. I'm sure some of you are going, yep, that's me. And sometimes even if you're trying to put on weight, which I know some people that come to me, they want to put on good weight, so muscle weight, often they'll find that their ghrelin might be low, so they're not actually feeling hungry during the day, or their ghrelin doesn't activate when it should, so then they'll have one big sort of bingey meal at night. So one of the things that imbalances ghrelin is restricting calories and dieting excessively. So if you are feeling like you're on a meal plan, or you've been on diets or meal plans before that you just don't get excited about, just doesn't really float your boat, they're not very sustainable, chances are you're not really balancing ghrelin and leptin very well. So often what happens, you might go good for a few days, but then you'll actually start to produce too much ghrelin, and then you'll binge eat. So often that explains kind of yo-yo mentality, or this kind of, insatiable hunger when you get to a certain point in a restricted meal plan or diet. So what we want to do is we want to have balance, we want to have variety, which we can, and keep our hormones balanced. And load days are one of the things I love, and these are just treat days. These are days where you can be completely relaxed, and a lot of people struggle with this, and often when I'm coaching them online, they're like, oh, I feel a bit guilty, and they have like one square of chocolate, but it just actually doesn't do the job. So we can go through load days that I don't have enough time to go through that today, but it is in your workbook. And the load days basically help with ghrelin. They help balance this hormone out, so you're not restricting yourself. A lot of people that do compete, if there's people that are looking at doing that, then often when they finish a competition and they've restricted their nutrition so much, and then they just have a whole week of just uncontrollable, insatiable hunger. A lot of the time, it's this imbalance of hormones. So it's knowing how to get your hormones back on track through your nutrition. More sunshine, so leptin actually can be increased, so we want to decrease ghrelin most of the time for most people and increase leptin. So this actually helps you shut down. So if you've got insatiable hunger or you don't know when to shut off, often they've linked that to D3 or lack of vitamin D. So to get a really good hit of D3, you can stand out middle of the day. Often they say when your shadow is shorter than you is the best time for D3 production, where your body naturally produces it. Or if you're very low, you work in an office, or you just don't get out enough. I know the sun up here is very hot, so 10 minutes is definitely enough. Then you might want to consider a D3 supplement, which we'll get onto soon. Avoid highly palatable processed foods. So foods with a bliss point. Now, bliss points I've talked about before in some of my talks. If we tend to eat a lot of foods with a bliss point, often what we find is that ghrelin will increase. So if you've ever had a food, usually it's a food that's manufactured with a bliss point, which basically they look at what's happening in your brain and they put the right amount or the perfect amount of protein, carbs and fats for you to kind of get addicted or hooked. And you know, it's like a bag of potato chips. People say, why can't I stop at one bag? And they're really you know, messing with your neurotransmitters when they manufacture this food. And you can do a lot more research on bliss points, but I definitely write that word down, because we think it's our willpower when in actual fact a lot of the neurotransmitters, which are your hormones, so hormones are basically neurotransmitters, which are little signals that tell your body what to do, are getting all messed up from some of these processed foods. So when you think it's you, it's actually a lot to do with the foods you're choosing. So really good point there is when you do load and have your relaxed cheat or load days, make sure that it's good quality food. Make sure that you're having your good quality chocolate. That's why a lot of clean treats I recommend, because it actually will help with this hormone balance of leptin and ghrelin. Train for hormone balance. So this is the next one. So with training for hormone balance, we want to look at everything from, how many days a week we're training, the best methods to get the best hormone response. We want to look at the type of exercises we're doing and getting the most bang for our buck. So these are some of the topics we cover in this section. One of the things I find is that DHEA, which is another hormone that helps balance out our sex hormones, is often low in women. And when we start to improve our DHEA through the right type of training, you'll actually get this lifelong fat loss that I'm always talking about. So when your testosterone and estrogen is in balance, you become a fat burning machine. Your metabolism is, super high, and you'll actually change the shape of your body versus just losing weight on the scale. So not only do we want to choose a program that's going to improve our DHEA production, but in turn change our body composition for life, which is what it's all about. So increasing DHEA helps improve the hormonal issues like PMS and menopause. Often when we age, we decrease the amount of DHEA we're producing. So when we weight train, we keep the amount of DHEA that we've got, if not improve it. So we want to improve our muscle mass. Now, a lot of people get scared off strength training for different reasons, but often what they fear the most is that they're going to bulk up. But if you're doing everything right on the spectrum, there's no reason why your body won't change shape to the way you want it, and there's no reason why your body would actually be bulky. So often I find when you start to produce the right hormones from the right type of training, your body will lean out. Often I find when women take up strength training and they haven't quite got their nutrition nailed, or there's something else going wrong, that's often when they'll find they won't feel as good through strength training. So not only do you want to get on the right strength training program, but you want to have all the bases covered for hormone health. Insulin sensitivity improves also. So now strength training is becoming the #1 form of training for people with insulin resistance conditions, which I talked about before. If you have an insulin resistance condition like polycystic ovary, like type 2 diabetes, your body's not metabolizing carbohydrates. So anything that improves insulin sensitivity is going to help with your lifelong fat loss. So it's all about balancing the hormones and shredding fat for life. So definitely get on a good quality strength training program, and we'll go through the types of training methods. So tempos is the pace at which we lift the weight. These things that we've got listed here, these are really basically things that you vary to get the best hormone response. So often if you see a tempo, which is, for example, 3010, that means you're lowering the weight down for 3 seconds and then you're lifting up for 1 second. We can manipulate that to, hormonally get the body to respond. So often if you are doing the same thing for a long period of time, you're going to get the same result. So with strength training, you want to manipulate your tempos, your sets, and your rep ranges to continually get a good hormone response. Every 28 days is often the best. So if you're looking at, well, how often do I have to change my strength training program? 4 weeks or 28 days is a really good benchmark. And again, each program that you get at that 28-day mark should have different tempos, should have different sets and rep ranges to keep the body guessing. I talk about sets a lot when it comes to balancing hormones, and this is the amount of times we work through an exercise. So often I say, you know, doing anywhere between 4 and even up to 10 sets. Now I know that sounds like a lot of strength training, but when I did my strength training for my competing back in the day, it was really, really effective, particularly for somebody that hadn't done much strength training. And you know, your body does respond really well and you feel fantastic. So a lot of you out there probably already a testament to strength training. Some of you might have maybe gone down the road of too much aerobic exercise, maybe not enough strength training, or you feel burnt out through training. If that's you, then really have a look at what you're doing on a weekly basis and try and refine it and do the best quality exercise that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. You don't want to waste time. Often I see a lot of people that come to the gym. We own a gym on the Sunshine Coast. Most of you might know Lucas and I, we run Anytime Fitness up here. Often we find is that we see someone in January and they look the same in December, but they've come to us to get a result. Now they might feel better for coming into the gym, but I'm always a big believer in if you're there and your objective is to actually, you know, get that lifelong fat loss for life, have a better quality of life, I'm always a big advocate for doing things that are going to help balance us hormonally. And I'm telling you right now, having been pregnant, now I believe that having a knowledge of the hormones has been really, really good for me. And you know, fingers crossed, I've had a really good experience so far. But all those things that we learn about hormones, you can use that knowledge for the rest of your life and build on that. So again, training is just another way that we can really get the hormones under control. Train for hormone balance. Again, the last one we've got duration. So often we don't want to be training more than 45 minutes at a time. That's strength training. You might want to do some stretching or something after that. But 45 minutes, if we're doing any more than that, often we lose that hormonal response and we start to overtrain. A split program gets the best hormonal response. So we separate the muscles on different days, and 3 to 6 days a week with 1 compulsory rest day. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time to train 6 days a week. Absolutely fine. You can still get amazing hormonal response and you can get amazing results training 3 days a week, provided that you're following the volume and the rep ranges and the tempos and things like that to get the best bang for your buck. 3 days a week would be absolutely fine to help with your hormone health and your hormone balance. Live for hormone balance. This is actually one of my favorite topics because I think people really underestimate things like sleep, electronics, and stress. Now I'm about to go through a massive change with sleep. So I'm really going to have to practice some of these things I'm going to teach you today. But often we always don't have the luxury of getting quality sleep, but knowing again its impact negatively on hormone balance can really start to shed a little bit of light. So there's things that we can do daily to help. So we'll go through sleep, electronics, and stress. So sleep, when we have quality sleep, we can actually help control the appetite hormones I spoke about before, in particular ghrelin. Often people, when they're sleep deprived, they often just tend to be hungry a lot. Often also cortisol increases because our body is under stress. So cortisol is another fat storing hormone, particularly around our navel. So often we store fat from too much cortisol in the body in the lower belly. So not the love handle area, but just sort of that kind of mum tum or that kind of lower pouch of belly fat. So a lot of that can come from stress as well. Insulin resistance, again, can be controlled with quality sleep. Things that will help improve quality sleep is obviously sleeping in a dark room, same bedtime and arise time daily. No electronics before bed is often really good. Often when we have electronics in our room or we're looking at them late at night, it increases our dopamine. We should be switching on serotonin. So if too much dopamine is being secreted, cortisol will secrete again. Then we get anxious, and then we have a really, restless sleep. Now, again, some people don't always have the luxury, and I'm going to experience this sleep deprivation, I've been told many times in the near future. So nap. If you can nap with a sleep mask during the day and make up for the sleep where possible, try to do that. Try to sleep with the darkness as much as you can, because that'll put you into that shut-off cortisol sleep. So you've got different levels or deeper sleep, and that comes on or switches on when we are actually in a dark room or we have a sleep mask on. So if you're a shift worker, if you're a new mum and you're really trying to get a handle of your hormone health, then definitely napping where possible with a sleep mask will help as well. Another thing is electronic use, which I've talked about with sleep. Have a cutoff time. Often I find with electronic use, often people will kind of be a little bit judgy about it, and they'll say, oh, well, why didn't you get back to me? Or there's a bit of a, almost like an expectation that we have to be available 24/7. And I know even with full-time staff, they will still be on their Facebook doing stuff for work. And it's almost like you've got to say, no, you have to have some time totally away from your electronics. Because they are linking it to imbalance of hormones. Things like serotonin is being depleted. So often the mood or the hormone that decreases our risk of getting depression is serotonin. So if we're on our electronics all the time and we just feel that anxiety to be available 24/7, it can really start to mess with our hormones. So I'm a big advocate for just sharing your journey and encouraging others to become aware of overuse. So fortunately, there's a lot more now in the news, and if you turn on the TV, they're linking electronic use with even child behaviour and things like that. So you've got to work out a schedule for yourself and a boundary for yourself, and stick to it as best you can. I'm all about giving you education and awareness so that you can make an informed decision for yourself about how you choose to go about that. Generally speaking, cut-off time should be in the evening. Most of our activity and our sort of switch on dopamine time should be during the day. Stress is a big one as well, and again, stress really does trigger that cortisol production we spoke about before. So if you're trying to get rid of that stubborn area of belly fat, then often we find stress management strategies can help. Stop distractions. There's so much stuff out there that we get so distracted by, and I have a little bit of a rule. If it doesn't add value to my life, I get rid of it, and whether that means that I just stop looking at it or delete it or unfollow or whatever it is for you in your life, the things that distract you unnecessarily, then you can really fine-tune what you look at. And this can really help your stress levels and your focus levels. So when you feel a little bit disjointed or you've got so many things, fighting for your attention, to get rid of a lot of that stuff really streamlines your life. It makes you start to think big picture about your life. And when you do that, when you journal and you think big picture about your life and goal set, you'll actually release serotonin. So often, a lot of times when you're dealing with a person, it could be a teenager, could be yourself, could be a loved one who's struggling with depression and anxiety. A lot of this stuff can be from hormone imbalance. So if you teach them positive traits like journaling, goal setting, things like that, it'll often release serotonin because they'll be thinking, or they'll get a really positive vision for their life. So not only are they going to achieve more, but they're obviously going to help balance their hormones as well. So it'll really help their quality of life. And do it yourself if you haven't already, is get a journal and start putting some of those big picture goals down. The last one we're going to look at today is our supplement for hormone balance. So with the supplementation, basically we've got groups of different supplements which can help with different areas of body fat. So supplements and belly fat is one topic. We've got supplements and lower body fat, usually that cellulite appearance. And then we've got specific hormonal issues. So we'll go through those now. The first one we've got is your belly fat. So belly fat, again, often around that navel area, we've got too much cortisol going on. So remember that cortisol can be secreted through any stress on the body, not just mental stress, which we touched on before. It's physiological stress, so lack of sleep, dehydration, things that are a stressor on your body, digestive issues are also a stressor on the body, can actually, increase our cortisol. So one of the things that are natural that will help reduce cortisol as a natural cortisol blocker is your chelated, we call it chelated magnesium. So chelated is a better form of magnesium. It absorbs better into your bloodstream, and it is a natural cortisol blocker. So I'm going into my last 10 minutes now. Oh, why did I do that? Just hit something. Let's go back. Still got you. Okay. There you go. So basically, if we take this mainly at night, it'll help to reduce cortisol. It'll help us release more serotonin. It'll help us wind down. It'll help us go to sleep and stay asleep. So a lot of people that have restless sleep, often you'll find that their magnesium might be a little bit depleted. So definitely, if that's you, get onto a good chelated magnesium. I like Poliquin Group. They're from the States, but they're often linked in with the biosignature. So that's really good quality magnesium. EPA fish oil. EPA is just the type of fish oil. So that's more for inflammation of the body rather than DHA fish oil. So EPA is the one that helps with insulin sensitivity. Often taken with your meals, it will decrease your insulin response on the food. So in other words, that means that you'll absorb and you'll actually break down your carbohydrates better. So having EPA fish oil, a strong quality, good quality one, will help with that. So it'll help with that love handle back fat area. And then you'll have your things like fenugreek extract is very good for slowing down carbohydrate absorption. So anything that really helps stabilize your blood sugar, things like cinnamon, things like what's another good one? We've got lemon and lime we can have in our water. All that helps to reduce the amount of insulin or reduce the insulin response on foods. So it helps to slow down that carbohydrate absorption or that insulin response. And obviously that's going to be fantastic for hormone balance, but also reducing stubborn areas of body fat. The next one we're going to look at is your estrogen and lower body fat. So often we talk about estrogen dominance. Now, people get a little bit confused, and if they're at perimenopausal or menopausal stage, they'll say, oh, my doctor told me I have low estrogen. Now, it must be remembered that estrogen dominance just means that you're more dominant in estrogen than other hormones like progesterone, like testosterone. And what that can lead to is that stubborn area of body fat. But now, again, like I said, they're bringing it back to high estrogen and, or not estrogen, estrogen dominance, sorry, and linking that back to breast cancer. So it's really good to understand how this hormone works in the body and what we can do to reduce the amount of estrogen and balance out that progesterone. So basically with your L-glycine, that helps with your liver. So we've got all these toxins from our environment. We also have toxins from our food. We want to reduce the amount of toxins that we are exposed to, so get onto some clean products on your skin and your face and everything else. But what we can do to help detoxify all those estrogens or excess estrogens is something like an L-glycine. That really is a strong one. They say even to add a little bit of the powder in your water to help with veggies. So if you're buying veggies that may have been exposed to pesticides, which is another estrogen mimicker, or will increase the amount of estrogen dominance your body has, that will actually reduce the estrogen load on that food as well. And often when you do soak them, you can find that you get a lot more off your veggies. It's, the water goes very brown. Cow D-glutarate helps with GI tract detoxification. So estrogen is detoxified through your liver, kidneys, and your GI tract. So you want to have a healthy GI tract and take anything that helps with that GI tract detoxification, and then the L-glutamine. So if you've got issues with gut and your gut is not good, you might have, you might be exposed to a lot of caffeine, alcohol, just bad food over the years. You might not be going 1s and 2s very often. So if that's you, then definitely look at getting an L-glutamine. The better your gut is, the less, that gut wall has been obstructed. You might have heard of leaky gut syndrome, causes a lot of inflammation. So that's just over time your gut wall has worn away. Then it's not going to be good for estrogen dominance issues. So if your progesterone is low, if your estrogen is dominant, you will find that you'll get stubborn areas of body fat in the lower half. So anything to improve detoxification pathways of the gut will actually help you reduce estrogen. Other things you can do, infrared sauna is another good one if you've got one near you, that will actually help reduce estrogen quicker, really help with detoxification. Now, specific hormones for specific imbalances. So you've got high doses of D3 for obesity, insulin resistance issues. We've got activated B vitamins. We've also got things for improving progesterone. So basically, if you look at progesterone and estrogen as a seesaw, we want to improve progesterone. So things like Mexican wild yams are a very good one for naturally bumping up that progesterone. And then you want things to detox estrogen, so your folic acid is really good for that. High doses of D3 have been found to be absolutely brilliant for people with insulin resistance conditions. So if you know anyone like that, or even get your D3 levels tested by your doctor, then definitely have a look. If you're on the lower end, I would be looking at getting a supplement for sure, because a lot of people, even on the lower end, struggle with a lot of hormone issues. One of the things that I find is missing in online courses, so I'm going to introduce one of my courses, the Accountability Hormone Health course, is basically accountability. So a lot of people, they give you a lot of information, but then there's no one helping you implement and coach you through a lot of this information. So I developed an accountability program online, and I've just introduced a new one, which is right here, which is a 4-week course, and that actually will focus more on the hormone balance as you go. So implementing everything that you've learnt today and more. So why have I called it a course and not a challenge? There's so many gym challenges and transformation challenges out there that I just basically wanted to, have something that was a bit more educational. So what I've found is a course is more about education. A challenge suggests a temporary change. I've found in the past, a lot of people do get really good results on a challenge, and then you see them a couple of months later and, they've gone back to how they were before. So I believe when you really are invested in education, then that just takes you to another level. It takes you past the challenge phase, and it does really promote lifelong change. So the course is more about lifelong change. I want you to be as invested in me as I'm in you at getting the results that you want. So daily accountability and action is how we achieve this. One thing, again, I've found through coaching people over the last 18 years is that we only change with action. We can have all the knowledge in the world, but until we apply it, it's just head knowledge. Action is what truly gives you that lifelong change. What's included? We've got a 4-week training program. There's 24/7 support via a private Facebook group, weekly video tutorials like this one on hormone health, and also motivation to keep you going throughout the time. Weekly, so that one, meal plan and shopping list, and then you've got your daily accountability coaching. 40 pages of hormone balance content. So everything you've learnt today will be fleshed out even further in your 4 workbooks. So there'll be 40 pages worth of information there that you get. The videos are all included in the Train for Hormone Balance. You get your program that I talked about before, your weekly overview, so you know how much to do on a weekly basis, but also you'll have your tempos, your rep ranges, your sets and your rest periods. So again, I've really tried to incorporate as much as I can to help or find the best formula for you to get the best results hormonally speaking. 24/7 private access to the Facebook group. So again, this is really going to help you stay encouraged through that 4 week and action some of the things you've learnt today. I'm all about actioning, so I really like people being active and trying to implement the things that they've learned as much as they can. The weekly live tutorials I do usually on a Monday morning, but they do stay up in the group. So if you miss it live, you can come and tune into it later on. And then you've got your meal plan guidelines, shopping list, and food list for corrective hormone imbalances. So you'll see there's a list of AM foods for dopamine foods, serotonin foods. So I've basically sourced the best foods for hormone health. And I've got you a massive list that you can go and just pick and choose what works for you. Like I said before, I'm definitely all about sustainability, and I'm definitely all about finding something that's going to balance your hormones lifelong. So that's basically it. I think it's like a 12-page book on different foods. This is your accountability coaching checklist. So it's a biosignature modulation. It tracks your sleep, your nutrition, exercise diary. So action and participation is how you get the lasting change. So all I ask from you with the coaching point of view is that you report to me with what you've done for that day, and that will really help us work together to workshop something that's going to be sustainable for you. I'm very shocked sometimes when people come in and they kind of have an idea of where they probably were going wrong, but then they might have had a bad experience. So when I can just chip away daily at one thing, or we just address a different thing over the 28 days, that person doesn't get overwhelmed, and it works really effectively. So yeah, I love the biosignature sleep, nutrition and exercise diary. So this is what I've got today as your launch special or webinar special. So the 4 weeks with all your content is usually $2.99. So I've got the special for $1.99. So if you are keen to join, it actually starts tomorrow, and we do that for 28 days. So you go to www.themusclemama.com. This is my new website, and you'll see up in the top, or if you in the drop down, you'll see the accountability hormone balance package. So if you click on that, you'll see all the details to join. You will get a replay of this video as well. So if you do lose the link, and you do want to come in and come back later, then we can do that as well, and replay it and make sure you've got a good understanding of everything. So that's it, guys. I've done pretty well. It's 4:40. This might actually time out, but if it does, sorry about that. But great to have you live. I'm very grateful that you've taken your Sunday afternoon to spend the time learning, and it's only going to serve you very well for the future. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope I get to work with you and keep you accountable. Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.